The Sicilian defense accelerated dragon modern BC4 variation makes an appearance as Abdyzhapar and Pingin prepare for a tactical duel in Asian Individual Chess Championships 2025 Open Round 5. On E4. On C5. Knight C3. Knight C6. Knight F3. On G6. On D4. On takes D4. Knight takes D4. Bishop G7. Threatening bishop takes D4. Bishop E3 played by Abdyzhapar. Knight F6. This position is typical of Sicilian defense accelerated dragon modern BC4 variation. Bishop C4. King castled kingside. Bishop B3. Rook E8. On H3. On D6. King castled kingside. Bishop D7. On F4. Abdyzhapar is preparing to play. On E5. Knight H5. On G4. Knight takes D4. Queen takes D4. Queen C8. Queen D2. Bishop takes G4. Pawn takes G4 and secure a stronghold in the game. Queen A5 played by Pingin. Knight F3. Rook AC8. Queen E1. Bishop E6. On F5. Threatening pawn takes E6. Pawn takes F5 played by Pingin. Knight G5. It is novelty move. Abdyzhapar's idea is to play. Knight takes E6. Pawn takes E6. Bishop takes E6 check and take decisive advantage. Bishop takes B3 played by Pingin. Pawn takes B3. Queen D8. Pingin's idea is to play. Pawn H6. Knight F3. Pawn takes E4 and seize the initiative. Rook takes F5 played by Abdyzhapar. Pawn E6. Threatening pawn takes F5. Rook F1 played by Abdyzhapar. Abdyzhapar intends to play. Queen H4. Knight E5. Rook takes A7 and increase their advantage significantly. Pawn A6 played by Pingin. Queen H4. Knight E5. Rook AD1. Queen E7. Do not rush. Can you find the strongest move for Abdyzhapar? Bishop D4 is best move here because on B5. On B4. Knight G6. Queen E1. Rook C4. Knight F3 position is equal. Let's go to the main game. Queen E7. Rook F2 slightly worse move played by Abdyzhapar. On H6. Pingin is preparing to play. Knight H7. Queen H5. Pawn takes G5 and increase their advantage significantly. Knight F3 played by Abdyzhapar. Knight G6. Pingin considers playing. Knight takes H4. Knight takes H4. Knight H5. On E5. Bishop takes E5. Knight F3. Bishop G7. On G4. Bishop takes C3. Pawn takes C3 and take decisive advantage. Queen G3 played by Abdyzhapar. Rook takes C3. Pawn takes C3. Knight takes E4. Queen g4. Threatening queen takes e4. Knight takes f2 played by Pingin. Bishop takes f2. Bishop takes c3. On h4. Abdyzhapar is aiming to play. On h5. King h7. Pawn takes g6 check, and gain a significant edge. Bishop g7 played by Pingin. Bishop g3. On d5. Pingin considers playing. Queen c5 check. King h2. Queen takes c2, and establish a winning position. On h5 played by Abdyzhapar. Threatening pawn takes g6. Knight f8 played by Pingin. On c4. On f5. Threatening pawn takes g4. Queen f4 played by Abdyzhapar. Pawn takes c4. Queen takes c4. Rook d8. Pingin wants to play. Rook takes d1 check. King f2. Rook d5. Queen f4. On a5. King g1. Knight d7. King h1. Rook d1 check. King h2, and increase their advantage significantly. Rook e1 played by Abdyzhapar. Queen f7. Threatening queen takes h5. Bishop e5 played by Abdyzhapar. Bishop takes e5. Knight takes e5. Queen takes h5. Queen c7. Threatening queen takes d8. Rook d1 played by Pingin. Threatening rook takes e1 check. Rook takes d1 played by Abdyzhapar. Queen takes d1 check. King h2. Queen h5 check. King g1. On f4. Knight f3. Queen f7. Threatening queen takes c7. Queen d6 played by Abdyzhapar. Knight g6. Knight d4. On e5. Threatening pawn takes d4. Knight e6 played by Abdyzhapar. King h7. On b4. Queen e7. Threatening queen takes d6. Queen b6 played by Abdyzhapar. On e4. Knight c5. On e3. Pingin might go for. On e2. Knight d3. Pawn promotes to queen at e1 check. Knight takes e1. Queen takes e1 check, and gain a significant edge. Queen takes b7 played by Abdyzhapar. Queen takes b7. Knight takes b7. Take a moment to spot the best move for Pingin. On h5 is the correct move because Knight c5. Knight e5. King f1. On f3. Pawn takes f3. On h4 Pingin have small advantage. Let's go to the main game. Knight takes b7. Knight e7 is an inaccurate played by Pingin. Pingin considers playing. Knight d5. Knight c5. Knight takes b4, and increase their advantage significantly. Knight c5 played by Abdyzhapar. Knight d5. Threatening knight takes b4. Knight takes a6 played by Abdyzhapar. King g6. On b5. King f5. Knight c5. Knight b6. King f1. King g4. Knight e4. On h5. Knight f6 check. King g5. Knight e4 check. King f5. Pause the video and find the best move for Abdyzhapar. Knight c3 is the right idea because King e5. Knight e2. Knight d5. Knight g1. King d4. King e2 position is equal. Let's analyze the main line. King f5. Knight d6 check is an inaccurate played by Abdyzhapar. King g4. Knight e4. On h4. King e2. Knight d5. Knight d6. Knight c3 check. King f1. On f3. Do not rush. Can you find the strongest move for Abdyzhapar? On takes f3 check is a strong choice, since King takes f3. Knight f5. On e2 check. King e1. On h3. Knight d4 check. Still Abdyzhapar is losing. Shifting to the main line. Abdyzhapar is looking to play on b6. Knight b1. On b7. On f3. On takes f3 check. King takes f3. On promotes to queen at b8 and increase their advantage significantly. On f3 played by Pingin. Pingin is looking to play on e2 check. King f2. On takes g2 and take decisive advantage. Knight c4 could cost the game. Played by Abdyzhapar. On e2 check. King e1. On takes g2. Think carefully what is the best move for Abdyzhapar. King d2 is the correct move because on promotes to queen at e1 check. King takes e1. On promotes to queen at g1 check. King d2. Queen d4 check. King c2. Still Abdyzhapar is losing. Let's proceed to the main variation. On takes g2. Knight e3 check. Do not rush. Can you find the strongest move for Pingin? King g3 is logical continuation as King d2. On promotes to queen at g1. Knight c2. Knight e4 check. King takes e2. Queen h2 check. Pingin have small advantage. Let's analyze the main line. Knight e3 check severely weakens the position. Played by Abdyzhapar. King f3 severely weakens the position. Played by Pingin. Pingin's idea is to play King takes e3. On b6. On promotes to queen at g1 mate and establish a winning position. Knight takes g2 played by Abdyzhapar. King takes g2. Time to think. Find the best continuation for Abdyzhapar. King d2 is a strong choice, since King f2. King d3. On promotes to queen at e1. King d4. Knight takes b5 check. King c5 still Abdyzhapar is losing. Let's explore the main game. King takes g2. Pawn b6 loses position played by Abdyzhapar. Abdyzhapar is preparing to play. Pawn b7. King f3. Pawn promotes to queen at b8 and take decisive advantage. Pawn h3 played by Pingin. Pingin is preparing to play. Pawn h2. King d2. Pawn promotes to queen at h1 and establish a winning position. Pawn b7 played by Abdyzhapar. Threatening pawn promotes to queen at b8. Pawn h2 played by Pingin. Pawn promotes to queen at b8. Pawn promotes to queen at h1 check. Pingin secured the win in style.